just trying to give everybody enough time to get here before we call the meeting to order, but we will do so now. We've got 3 of the 4 Finance Committee members here today. Justice Nelson is absent. We have about 6 budgets that we're going to try to discuss today. The collector, the treasurer, the assessor, juvenile, landfill, and we want to talk a little bit about the district courts. We have 2 district courts in Mississippi County, the Chickasaw District Court in Blytheville and the Osceola District Court in the South End. We're going to start, I think, with the collector. We've got some discussion to look at and talk about here just a little bit. Susan came by my office one day last week, and we looked over her budget. She has 2. She has her county general collector budget, and then she also has her collector's automation fund, which has been significant. In the past, before we get started, let me just state that in the past, some of our collectors would build up the balance in their automation fund. I'm trying to be politically correct here. And they have a significant income in that collector's automation fund compared to other automation funds. If you look at their revenues, projected revenues, they're about $130,000, I think, for 2021 in anticipated revenues. We had gotten to the point where some of the previous collectors were keeping up to $250,000 carryover balance. I'm not pointing at you, Betty, but some of your predecessors.
They like that money.
Patricia, and then before her, it was very common to run a $200,000 to $250,000 balance in that collector's automation fund. And at that time when that was happening, we were really straining and hurting in county general. And the collector has a lot of leeway, especially in the collector's office. They have a lot of leeway in what they can use in county general and what they can use in their automation fund. So working with Betty, started more with Betty, then continuing with Susan as collectors, we wanted to pull that automation fund balance down some and shift over into shift some of that responsibility into county automation, pull the balance fund, giving some relief to county general. Betty started that process with us, and Susan's done a wonderful job of continuing that process until the point that we've gone from like $250,000 carryover to an anticipated approximate $30,000 carryover for this next year. Well, when Susan and I were looking at that, I really wasn't sure what our anticipated revenues were, so we expected to kind of carry over her automation fund some, and we had about $190,000 in expenditures, I think, that Susan and I had looked at. Now, Susan, you chime in and correct me in anything that I say wrong, but I think you and I had looked at about $192,000 in anticipated expenditures in the automation fund that we were going to just kind of wax over.
Right.
But with only $130,000 anticipated revenues and about a $30,000 carryover, that's only $160 towards the $190 that we had budgeted for, which was going to leave us somewhat short. So we also don't want to completely break that fund. We like to have a little bit of carryover. What if something did go wrong in their automation equipment and she needed the extra money? We always come out of it with county general, but we don't. It's not our intentions to totally break the fund, but we do appreciate what the last 2 collectors have done in helping us pull that balance down. So what we've got to do is work with Susan and work with Kelly and look at how to balance out those 2 different funds and their expenditures and where we're going to go and where we're going to pull the money out of. And Kelly's kind of put it together for us. Susan, did you have much of a chance to talk to Kelly this morning?
No, she was so busy, bless her heart. I always feel like I'm interrupting her, but.
Well, it's just a work in progress anytime you walk into her office.
Does that include the money that she'll get at the end of the year? Is that the anticipation of the $130,000?
Kelly?
Yes.
It is?
Are you talking about her automation revenue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what was budgeted, was 130,000. And then we added her, are you talking about 130 on top of this 130? Or-
Yeah.
No, we just budgeted 130.
Okay, Susan, so where are we? What do you want us
Well,
to?
my question is, can we, from automation, could we leave like the personnel costs where it's at and move all my other expenses over to county general? That would be about, if I'm looking at it right, about $72,200. I think it would be more, and I don't know, I may be wrong, but to me, it seems like it would be more trouble to Kelly to have to move personnel stuff, payroll and insurance and all that, than it would be to move just the expenses.
Kelly, response to that?
Okay, well, I think it would be about, it would actually be about 75, because on the next page, there's 3,000 for equipment.
Oh, okay.
But it's really whatever you wanna do. We can do anything. I will just say, you know, I talked to Michael and Peggy about it. When we change software companies, it's gonna be hard for us in payroll to do salary splits the way that they are. So what we were thinking about doing was everyone who's on a salary split like you, where county general's paying a portion and then your automation's paying a portion, we're going to just let payroll pay one of those, out of one of those funds, and then do monthly or bi-weekly transfers to pick up the other part. So if you wanted to move the payroll over, you know, that would save us from doing that, but that amount is maybe larger than what you might wanna move. So anything's fine with me, you know, we can work with whatever.
Well, whatever's gonna make it easier when we transition to the new system, I think is maybe what we need to do.
Well, we'll have to do transfers for several departments, that we've got several departments that have salary splits, so, you know, one more is not gonna matter really. Either way, it's not really gonna help me
One way or
any
the
more
other.
than the other, so.
So if we moved all of the salaries and all that to county general, then that would leave more than enough to do and a balance in my automation, is that right?
Yes, that would get rid of about $120,000, so.
That'd run you down to about $75,000 after raises. You'd only have $75,000 in expenditures
Right.
against $130,000 income and a $30,000 carryover. So you'd be having $160,000 with a $75,000 expenditure against that.
Well, then how do y'all suggest we move it? I mean, do you only want to move part of payroll to it, or? I just really don't know how it works.
Well, the difference would be about $44,000. County general would be picking up 119,000 versus 75,000.
One card in the deck that I haven't flipped out on the table, but because Harley's not here, or Harley would have already flipped it for us, is the fact that in these two funds, the schools reimburse out in county general. They do not reimburse in the automation fund. So any expenditures that we run through county general, we actually get 80% back from the schools, not in the automation fund. So if we move 120,000 of salaries, we will be getting 80% of that back, which would be what, $96,000? We'd be getting $96,000 reimbursed out of the schools that we don't get if we leave it in automation.
Sounds like the answer. Yeah, I agree.
It's gonna hammer the budget as far as looking at county general budget, but the reimburse, and it'll be a year before we get
So is
that
that what
tax
you were
settlement
talking,
next
so
year.
that's what you were asking when you said, is that including?
Yeah, that's that settlement that we'll get at the end. Yeah, it comes in the tax settlement at the end of the year. So it'll be a full year. But Peggy, am I not stating that correctly?
Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm,
So does it make logic, what we're saying here, that if we move her salaries out and then over, that we'll get reimbursed 96,000 that we're not gonna get if we leave it like it is?
yes, that's correct. That's the way I understand it.
Then we could look at other expenditures later as the year goes on. We could transfer other expenditures as needed if we needed to utilize the automation fund. If we run into more computer issues than we're anticipating.
Okay.
Because that's gonna be quite expensive, and you wanna talk anything about that expense, Susan?
Well, I talked to Norris the other day about when we needed to replace our computers, and I don't really want to replace the Burdette ones until we move back to Blyville. So, and I'm not sure, I don't think Betty replaced any when she was there. I don't remember.
We replaced them all.
You replaced all of them? Okay. Well, maybe I don't need to replace them.
No, they're 2 years old at least, so you're going the third year. But if you move next year, that'll be 3 years, and yeah, you do need to do it then, but, I mean, you can wait till then.
I was thinking I would do maybe the 3 at Osceola, and then when Burdette moves back to Blyville, do those then.
Yeah, they all got replaced that first year.
Actually, I do remember that.
So that was what, 2017?
18.
18?
I thought every 3 years, that's about.
Okay, so between Kelly and Peggy and Susan, is it okay if we move those salaries over and leave everything else the same? Does anybody see a problem that I'm not catching?
Not at all to me.
Will that make it easier for you in payroll?
It'll make it to where we do not have to,
Split those salaries?
right, split the salaries, yeah.
That would be good.
So, okay?
That's
Then you
good
get
with
to
me.
kick
And you're
back.
talking about salaries, insurance, you're talking about the
Yeah.
whole thing, okay, yeah, that's fine, I think.
Yeah, if you start splitting hairs on insurance and retirement and all that kind of stuff, you're gonna create your own nightmare. Okay, in your county general budget, Ms. Collector, is there anything, we were just now talking about the computer cost and all, you know, you and I discussed some software cost issues the other day.
Right.
You wanna bump on that any at all?
Well, just the big expense on the server, that was a big expense.
Well, that was for
Oh.
this year, right? We're talking about 21.
Okay, well, we'll have, apprentice, our charge for apprentice is gonna be about, let's see, I don't know if I brought my,
Is this under service contracts where she's going?
that one. It's gonna be about right at $13,000 a year for maintenance, our yearly fee. But then to transfer, to get the, ball rolling, it's gonna be about 32,000. And, what Kelly was telling me I needed to do was to get them to bill us. I talked to Patrick from Apprentice, and he said it would be better to pay that this year if we can.
In 20.
Yes, the large amount, the 32,000. So, you know, those are the big expenses that I'll have coming up.
In your county general account, under public records / software, you've got 25 penciled in.
And that was for, that was the 15 for the maintenance, and then I just penciled in 10,000 because I don't know what data systems is gonna charge to give us our data. I don't feel like it'll be that much, but
I have that in her automation.
Yeah, yeah, it's in autumn, okay, I'm confused.
Yeah, that's in our.
Oh, excuse me,
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. That's in automation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where it should be.
Now, we took the service contracts out of automation and put it in county general?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you see the question? She's talking about service contracts, you moved them out of automation and over into county general.
Right. Michael and I felt like that would be a better place for them to be because of the reimbursement. I hope that the postage is much lower this year. If the company does it the way they, does it, our statements the way they should, our postage should be much less.
Guys, y'all got any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Sorry, since you mentioned that, did you get that problem corrected that you and I discussed about the way they mailed them? Because if not, then that's gonna make your postage go up.
Right, it
Sure.
should, since we are changing programs, Apprentice knows how to send, statements to Devco, is who prints them for us.
Okay.
They print a lot of statements for other counties.
So how will that not make your postage go up? So for example, I have multiple companies that all use the same address. And last year, they were all received in one envelope, including all of my mailbox holders, remember? Because
Right.
the base address was the same. So in one envelope, I had tax bills for like 6 different entities. So that was one stamp, whereas it should have been 6 stamps.
Well, how that should have done was the company that, our present company, sent it to Devco as, and sorted by taxpayer ID number and address. That's where it got so messed up. So
Right.
this year, and I wish I had it with me, everything that has the same taxpayer ID number will come, like you've got your personal, and then everything, every piece of property you've got that has that taxpayer ID number will list on that same page.
Okay.
It'll list the parcel number, the name it's in, but it will all list, so it should cut you from getting, say, 10 invoices to 1.
It won't, because I'm talking about, I got one envelope with one stamp on it, when I should have gotten, for like, say, 6 different taxpayers. So I should have gotten 6 envelopes.
Okay, if you have 6 different taxpayer numbers, then you're gonna get 6 different envelopes.
Right, and I didn't last year the way it was done. I got 1. So that's what I'm saying is your postage should be more if it does it accurately. Because I'm a commercial mail receiving agency, so my address may be the same address used for multiple taxpayers.
Right,
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But last year, those multiple different taxpayers were all enclosed in one envelope.
I think that was because it was, they sorted it by address.
That is correct. So when they
And that's-
don't sort it by address,
Then they should come separately.
right, which would mean that there would be 6 different postage charges instead of 1 different postage charge for that particular one.
Well, it would be, but when you look at big companies like our big landowners,
Right?
say their statement goes out and it costs $7 to mail that.
Right.
Then when it comes out, and instead of getting 200 statements, they're gonna get 100.
So it's gonna reduce the weight of those particular.
exactly.
Okay. I still think that some of that may balance out in the net. Some of the ones that are gonna have reduced postage are gonna be probably eaten up by some of the ones like mine, in the
Probably.
situation that are gonna have more.
Maybe, but it's just been a work in progress, and it's just, this
Well-
past year was our biggest mess.
Right, and that was just my biggest concern is that I opened tax documents for taxpayers because it came all in my envelope because
Right.
of the address situation.
But if each one of those taxpayers has a separate taxpayer ID number, they will get their
Okay.
own statement.
Okay. Thank you.
Susan, if we move all that out of automation and over into county general, is there any other changes or anything you want us to make?
Well, not that just grabs me right now. You know, we could move that, that advertising and publication back over to automation, 16,000.
Let's star that, and then when Kelly kind of gets it put together, and if you feel like, Kelly, we need to move that, we can.
Well, did you note that she did say that Apprentice is wanting her to pay the initial setup and startup cost this year, which will be that $32,000, so that's gonna put a chunk, or take a chunk out of her automation, so.
So could we take that out of automation now?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get them to bill you and stuff, that was the issue that we were talking about Friday, I think between you and I and Harley too at a separate time, but anyway, he was wanting to know if we could pay it, but we're gonna have to have something to pay from, so.
Okay.
You know, if they will get something to us, then sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that where you wanted it, was your automation?
I wanted it to come out of wherever I had the most money for it to come out from. I don't know that there'll be enough in the projected expenditures to have it come out of automation for this year.
It'd be close. It'd be real close.
Yeah, because it was, what, 31,000 the other day when Michael and I looked at it, and that was before these other things.
You had about 32 or so in there, you know, at that time. That was as of 10/19.
Right.
October the 19th, and you had about 64, and you had about 31 or 32 left in projected expenditures is what we were looking at, which was going to leave you around 31 or 32 plus to the good.
Right.
Well, do you wanna do automation, and then if she doesn't have enough to finish the year, we just come back to you or
Yeah.
something? Because, okay.
Yeah, let's do it like that.
Yeah, 'cause that's where it really belongs.
It really belongs in there, so let's use it there if we can. And we're going to use it like that, and if you don't have enough, then Peggy will loan us a little bit, and
Okay.
we'll take care of
She's
it.
got 57 in there.
Yeah, but she's got $32,000 in expected expenditures to finish out the year also.
Yeah.
If you just look at her budget and what she hasn't spent yet, if she
Yeah.
spent everything that was in her budget,
I think we need, yeah. I'm gonna ask Patrick to go ahead and send us an invoice on that.
okay,
And get that paid so we can get that worked out. before
I mean,
the end
that's
of the
as
year.
of today, I mean.
right. And she may not spend all her budget, but I bet she spends 85% of it. That 57 that's as of today, it was like 61 or 62 as at the end
Yeah,
of,
the other day.
Okay,
yeah, at the end of the
okay. I thought-
19th, yeah.
Okay.
If you're gonna pick on us, we're gonna pick on you. Let's look at the treasure budget.
Go for it.
You're ready, aren't you?
Peggy, have you made any big changes?
No, I didn't make any big changes.
Peggy also has an automation fund, it's just not quite as large.
On my travel, I left it the same. I think we have mentioned to you once about, putting a line in the landfill budget for some travel expense, because we do go to the bank for the landfill deposits. So I left my travel expense the same, and it's pretty well gonna be depleted out of my county general and my, automation. And if I had been going to my treasurer's meetings this year, which I have not because we haven't been having them because of COVID, I would be way short. So I left mine the same, and we are gonna be asking in the landfill budget to put a line in there for travel expense. For,
How much you thinking, Peggy?
about 2,000. I'm just
You just broke the landfill.
No, we figured it up, it's about $500 a year. It's only gonna be for 1 year.
No problem,
Ever how long we're Verde is.
no problem.
That will stop, whenever we, it won't be near that much whenever we move back to Bobble.
We can handle it.
So, but I left mine the same, anticipating that maybe we will have our treasurers meetings again this coming year. We may not, I don't know.
In all this software transitioning that we're doing, is that gonna more affect financial management department or more in county treasurer department or both?
Well, that depends on what happens with the lawsuit, really, Right now, it's mostly, financial management, but if.
Well, it'll still be financial management. All you're talking about as far as the lawsuit's concerned
We could
is,
combine them and, it would all be under me, which would be better.
yeah. But as it stands in keeping financial management a separate
Right,
department of the moment, it's gonna fall, that's all I'm asking for the
Right.
21 budget like we're projecting.
right,
Because I don't know that lawsuit will be done before the end of the year.
right.
Possible, I'm not saying it's not gonna be done, but I don't see an end in sight anywhere soon, so. Can anybody find anything to fuss with her about? We can't ask Kelly to find something on her, she's gotta go back and work with it.
So on the travel, you have down $400, and then if you increase that for the landfill part, $1,000 will take care of all of it.
Yes, it should.
But we were gonna put it in the landfill on the link in the actual year budget.
The
Oh, I was trying to add it back onto hers.
That was kind of sneaky, I thought.
I did too.
If we're gonna beat on Neil just a little bit, I'll pass Neil's budget out.
Uh-oh.
Well, I better get my
We have
shin guards
50,000
on.
down.
Get my shin guards on here.
I'm glad to have you here because this is the way you learn. I got one for Cindy. As long as I got one for Cindy. She'll cut me off on all my checks if I don't give her one. Did I give you one? Ready? Oh, landfill? Thank you. Kelly does a really good job of getting us enough for you. So on the landfill budget, guys. I tell you what, there's been a couple really great things that's happened to me as the years I've been on the Quorum Court, and one of the finest things that I can say ever happened was I was removed as chairman of the landfill committee and Justice Byrd was put in there.
Not one of the finest things that ever happened to me.
I mean, that was one of the nicer things that Judge Carney ever did for me. I don't know that was the intentions, but that was the result.
You never had any employees going to jail or anything. Wow.
Never had my field day, wasn't it?
Justice Byrd looks like on revenues. Revenues look strong,
Yes, sir.
3.283.
Yes, sir.
Take the 10% off, 2.954
Yes, sir.
on revenues. How you feel about that?
I think that's a good number. It's down a little bit. It's been running around, 3.5, 3.6.
Yeah, I see 3.7 as of 9:30.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So I think it's very conservative, which I like.
Exactly, me too.
I'd rather budget low and budget expenses a little higher if you have to, But I think it's a good number.
Well, the 3.7, that's got a landfill CD that cashed in, so I don't know if you really wanna count that or not. I just didn't want that to be misleading.
Yes,
you know?
Right, right.
that's not tipping fees.
No.
No.
Tipping fees are 2.5.
Oh, here, oh, okay.
But the 3.2 that you're showing here is, well, it's 2.8 as of, it'd be about 2.5 as of September the 30th. Because we cashed in 1.225, I think.
Yes, the
But if you
actual,
took that off the 3.7,
yes, actual tipping fees through 9/30 are 2.5.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you have to, you know, we put treasurer's commission in there. But
I think it's a good enough. I mean, don't you feel like comfortable with it, Kelly?
I do, yeah, I think that that's really, you know, really on target for what it's projecting. Now, it looks a little different from history, but,
Right.
you know, you have to take treasurer's commission out of that too, so.
And that's to finish the sale, is that
And-
right? We gotta finish the sale in 2021?
Yeah, and along that same line, the judge did stop by this morning and visited a few minutes. Had a couple of comments about the budget. And he did let me know that we had reported last week that we have a list of a few accounts that were, and he had, all of those have been contacted. And some of them have, some of the larger ones have reassured him that money will be coming in. So that's gonna help our collections, you know, help our cash flow some between now and the end of the year, hopefully be in between now and the end of the year. He did also ask for one change, and that was on the gravel, slag, and sand. You noticed we upped that
To 75?
to 75. He asked that we raise that to 78,000.
What are we doing?
Well, it always worked. You remember when we were finishing up the old sale, the further you get up, the more gravel and rock it takes, because you've got those heavy loads, and so you just have to continually keep building on it to get them up, and that's kind of where we are. Plus, there's going to be, he mentioned there's going to be some other chat that's going to be needed around the new sale too, on doing some things. And so he felt like that needed to be increased about, so that'd be a total of $18,000 from this year's budget.
You know, that's honestly encouraging that he's paying that much attention and looking at it,
Very
because
much
we
so.
want him to have his input.
Right.
You know, we definitely need that.
Yes. And
So,
he did ask for that.
good.
And one other little thing that he did ask for, Kelly, this is just a bookkeeping thing, I think. Under let me get on the right page here. Under, this is page 3 of the expenditures, where it says the note principal and note interest. He wanted to know if we could change that to designate that as a 2017 sale.
Sure.
That's just a thing, he tracks it by.
2017.
Yeah, the first payment, I think, was the sale 15, the one we're in now.
We started paying interest in 16, I'm pretty sure, but, I mean, I can do
Just, he said, I look at that and since we've got
a new sale.
the new sale,
Okay,
it's not the new sale anymore.
Yeah,
okay,
that's,
yeah. 2007, I see what you're saying
Yeah,
now.
if he asked,
Oh,
we
I see.
could make that change. And then he also asked about, evidently, and Kelly, I think you and I have talked about this once before. He also asked about, in some of these accounts he's been contacting,
Delinquent accounts.
yeah, they would like to be able to do direct deposit to pay their invoices. ACH deposits. Who do I need to talk to about that?
not me.
Treasurer?
I mean, right now, we're not set up to,
Would it be a big deal?
mm,
I mean, I don't know, everybody, We had to do that at our business. We get 7 or 8 a month, companies that wanna pay.
Well, you just go directly to the bank and set
Yeah,
up
it just
a,
goes to your checking
Just like
account.
a train, the wire, yeah.
They usually, well, almost all of them will send you an email and say, we're transferring, we're doing a payment of so-and-so. It's real simple as far as the bank's concerned. You just have to fill out a form and send it to the company. But I don't know from the bookkeeping side. It's a little workaround you have to do, because you have to get it at the end of the month when you do your statement, unless you get an email.
reconcile.
You have to reconcile, and then you have to generate, I just generate a check and then go pay it on their
Yeah.
account. So you have to work around it a little bit. But would y'all mind looking into that?
I mean, it's just a matter of deciding whether or not we're going to do that. I mean, because we've had requests for it before, and we just say we're not set up to do it, so.
Okay.
And, they do part of the work in the judge's office, and we do part of it back there. So, we just need to have, probably, sit down and talk about it and decide whether or not we're gonna do it.
Okay. It was just, the question was raised, if y'all don't mind.
Yeah,
looking
it's
into
been
that.
raised before. I mean, it's been asked before.
Yeah. So evidently, some of the people are asking for it, so that's the only thing else I have to add. Michael?
For the JP elects, y'all, I should have pointed it out, maybe I have before, but when I handed out this budget that we're looking at on the landfill, the very first sheet is the revenue. That's the income we're expecting. It's hard to, I miss that sometimes. So the first sheet is the income sheet and where it's gonna come from, and then the next 3 sheets are the expenses, what we wanna spend the money, and then the last sheet is just showing payrolls, and Kelly's giving that to us because we're hoping to give raises and make some difference in salary schedules this year. So she's just giving us some additional information, but I just wanted to point out the difference in the revenues on the front sheet and then the expenditures behind it, and help y'all kind of pick up on that.
One other thing I might mention too, Michael, if you'll notice on the 2021 expenditure side, we're not showing anything on cell construction because we're assuming that most of that money is going to be paid before the end of the year. I hope.
We hope.
The money is there, but we're not showing it in the budget.
It just goes.
But we are showing down on landfill CD purchase, we are showing a $500,000 moving over to a CD for future cell construction.
500 or 50? 500?
500. And that's our hope, that we can operate and move 500,000 a year over, just like we've done the last 2 years. And then when it comes time to do the final cap or to do a new sale, we'll have some money sitting over there. So that is included in that budget.
Y'all thought I was kind of kidding a while ago when I said one of the best things that ever happened, but I wasn't really kidding. Neil has done an excellent job of working the budget on this landfill
Well, I appreciate
and putting that together. He's the best I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a bunch of them on the landfill over there.
Well,
so.
thank you, I appreciate it.
I did have one question. So when the judge was talking the other day about doing the, for lack of a better word, the pond, putting the berm up and doing, so is that reflected in, so we're gonna finish that this year or next year?
That will be in this year.
Okay, and that'll take the leachate hauling down, is that right? Do you think it'll reduce that cost by this year or by next year, or do you think it'll take a year?
Well, if you'll notice on leachate hauling,
Actually got it down.
oh, it's
Went from
gone down a
120.
whole lot.
We're on 38,000, I think,
Yeah.
looking at up current today.
Mm-hmm. And I budgeted,
80, okay, you did go, so it did go down even more, so.
it went, and the judge negotiated a new contract with Luxora back right after he first came in office. And I think we're getting it at a very good rate.
Yeah.
And in dry times, we're not having to haul all the time.
Mhm.
And so, it dropped considerably this year. And I realize we'll probably have a little more next year because we're gonna have 3 sales. But that expenditure should, for the first 6 months or so, should keep us from having to haul a lot of extra leachate, which we had to do when we went in to sell 15. Simply because it was 8 acres of water. And when you put the first dump in there, then it becomes leachate.
Right, okay,
This way, by dividing it, you're working 4 acres at a time.
okay,
That was the purpose of doing that.
okay,
You can just pump the other 4 acres out into the ditch.
right, okay, and that, right, okay,
Right.
so, okay, got it.
That's what that was for. That was a change that was made to the contract. But it should be paid this year.
Good question.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything for Justice Burge? If you want to talk trash, he's your man.
I ain't talked a lot of trash.
Oh, another fun day today. We got the assessor's budget and no assessor.
Where is Harley?
Harley's wife is not well, and he's staying away from the rest of us just in case.
Did you say Rick had to be quarantined?
City workers, yep. So, I appreciate their concern for the rest of us and not exposing us. And they're not even sure they would, but let's not take a chance. So I'm grateful.
Yeah, I don't want them.
On the assessor's budget, guys, particularly, again, you JPLX, the very first page is actually expenditures on this one because that's his county general expenditures. He has a county general account as the elected official, and so there's not any revenues. They are all counted in the county general revenues. But then he has 2 other accounts on behind the county general. He's got his amendment 79, and then he has his assessor's late assessment. Both of those being special revenues. You'll see the revenue worksheet on the front of that, and then right behind it you'll see the expenditure worksheet. So he has 3 accounts that we're actually looking at here. County General, Amendment 79, and then Assessor's Late Assessment. So, Kelly, you put this, or you worked and helped Harley a little bit with this. Big changes?
No, not really. Actually, Harley did, except for personal services, Harley did it all, but he has trouble printing. And so when he did turn it in, there were several line items at the bottom of his county general budget that were cut off. And so I went ahead and put numbers in there and then talked to him about it this morning, and he does want a couple of changes. So if you can look on that very first page, the county general, everything from telephone down was actually cut off. So I did some projections or just carried over if I thought it was okay. And then there was a couple that were high, and so I reduced them. And he wanted to change the fleet insurance. He said that they will only have 1 vehicle next year. So instead of 800, he would like for me to change that to 400. So I'll be making that change. And then the very last one, dues, memberships, and subscriptions, he said that he felt like that one could be cut down to 1,000, so I'll be making that change. The internet projected higher than last year, so we have bumped that up to 14.8. But for the most part, his county general was carried over. You know, these numbers were basically carried over from last year.
So is he doing the
Itself.
software?
Yeah, the software
yeah.
expense.
Yeah, so he is changing to Apprentice, and he did have a quote from Apprentice, and they gave him sort of the same thing that Susan had, a startup cost, but he has two parts. He's got the real estate and then the personal property. So there was a startup cost for each, plus the yearly fee. And Then he added a little bit more for data conversion, because they do not know what their data conversion costs are gonna be yet either, so yeah, that was a big expense.
So
a
that's
big
the
change.
30 up to 75.
Yeah. And like Susan, he is being encouraged to pay a big chunk of that this year too. He wanted to pay half, where Susan was gonna pay her whole, startup costs, but Harley wanted to pay half, so,
Half in 20 and half in 21?
yes.
The Amendment 79 funds are pretty small. A little over 14,000, 14,500 in expenditures. Hardly has a current balance in there, and he's not gonna spend it all. So he could budget up to 23,408, and he's only budgeted 14,500 out of that. He has bumped his postage up in there some. From 700 to 7,000. Huh? Surely that's wrong?
Yes, sure,
Yeah,
that's
that
wrong.
was typo.
Is that a typo?
I thought I changed that. Yeah, that should just be 700, sorry.
Ah. Well, that's gonna drop it down even more then, isn't it?
Yeah, his total expenses should be 14,500 out of there.
Are you sure? You drop the 700 down to 7,000, you're
Somehow it
cutting half of it out.
Somehow it
Oh,
doesn't-
no, it doesn't add up.
It
You're
doesn't, yeah,
right.
it doesn't total, yeah.
Cause there's 9,000 up top.
Uh-huh.
Are you looking at 3004?
Amendment 79.
138, Assessor's Amendment 79 fund on expenditures. 5,000. Yeah, that-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, the 14,500 I think must be with the 7,000 in there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, so it'll only drop it down to, that'll drop it down to what, $8,000?
Yes.
You're gonna drop 6,500 off,
Well, it should be the same as last year, so the 8,200.
8,200, yeah, there you are. Okay.
Is that, I don't have what you have in front of you, so like is the 2021 and the 2021 with the raise the same thing?
There we go.
Yes, okay, yeah. Yeah, that should be 8,200 and 700.
Then, gosh, the assessor's late assessment is really small. $500. On expenditures and on the, revenues and not budgeting anything out of it. On the late assessment. Really not enough to deal with. Okay. That was awful easy. It was too easy on, that was too easy on him. Darryl came in a while ago, but then I saw he had to get up and leave. Darryl with, Judy. You're doing good. We're just fine. Promise you. Between Peggy and Kelly, they're not gonna let you and I fall very
Well,
far.
that's good, I'm glad.
All right, on the juvenile. Darryl might be available if we had to have him. I'm not sure if he had to leave the building or not.
He's saying thank you.
So on his county general juvenile, on the expenditures, he virtually carried everything straight across. Am I not right, Kelly?
Yes, that's what he asked for, just carry
Just carried
everything.
straight across with no major changes. Basically 340,000 to 340,000. The juvenile automation fund, it does have a revenue and it does have an expenditure sheet each. He's actually lowered that request about $800. Guys, anything notable? You know, he's lowered a couple and raised a couple. General office supplies are down, but then his small equipment is up.
Well, I can explain that a little bit. And back to the county general one, the ones that are different from last year is just based on how everything's projecting.
Uh-huh.
And so I just thought they would be closer numbers, just a few little things. But on the 3031, the juvenile services account, he had budgeted last year, 4,800 in office supplies, but his intentions were not to use that for office supplies. I just didn't know that till later. He bought some equipment, like computers and things, so I just kind of split that.
Balanced it, yeah.
Yeah, so that it wouldn't look off kilter in the expense report, so that's why we did that.
His office is usually a pretty easy office.
Yeah.
They seldom ask for anything until they just get in an absolute need nearby. This next one is do a little discussion. Let's talk about the district courts just a bit. We have two district courts in Mississippi County. We have the Chickasaw District here in Blytheville with Judge Shannon Langston. We have the Osceola District Court in the south end with Betty's brother, actually, of the moment, Judge Don Betterton, who will be replaced the first of the year by
Catherine Dean.
Judge Catherine Dean. That's absolutely right. There are some things, now the district courts are an extension of the state circuit court system now. Back in the day, they were just municipal courts that each of the cities held their own, hired their own judges, and did their own courts and their own city halls and such. But the state revamped the court system through the Administrative Office of Courts in Little Rock, and those judges are now paid by the state. It was a good thing for the cities. It was a good thing for the counties. It was a good thing for the district.
And the judges too.
Well, the judges came out okay in the deal.
Oh, yeah.
But we've got two different ones. Now, they are a state court, but there are certain things that we are required to pay. And then we almost always get some request for additional items that we are not required to pay. So we've always tried to make sure that we do the shalls. You know, that's the difference in legalities. When state law says you shall do something, it's a law and meaning that we had to do it. And then the mays. A may is when, we can do it if we've got the money or the desire, or both. We can do things if they're included in the law as a may. So we've always made sure we did the shalls and been very close with the may portion of them. So, Kelly, you want to talk a little bit first?
Well, just since I've been involved with it, I think that usually the court just tries to look at, you know, what you are legally responsible for and then try to make it fair between both ends. And that's, I would say that they are pretty close to being equal. But, you know, we did get a request in from Judge Betterton. And so I just wanted everyone to look at it and to see if you wanted to review that a little bit and then tell me maybe how you want me to do this year's budget, or,
All right, you've been kind of on top of it lately, and I didn't bring my sheet with me. Can you give us a brief rundown of the shalls, the requirements that we absolutely have to do on district court? Can you do that off the top of your head?
the only thing that I know for sure is that the counties are responsible for half of the district court clerk's salaries.
Is that plural or singular?
It's plural.
Okay.
And salaries has been defined by AG opinion as salary and Social Security and Medicare. So when they have, you know, sent requests in for, you know, their insurance benefits and retirement, there have been years that those were paid. The last 2 years they were not included. So I just wanted to point out that on Judge Betterton's request form, it is included in there, group insurance and pension, along with operating expenses such as utilities and office supplies, those kinds of things that have not been included in our budget before, so.
And we are not required to pay office operating expenses. I want to give you a few minutes and let you kind of look over,
Well, so, okay, so they're just, but right now they're equal?
we've tried our best. If we're going to do for one, we need to do for both. Whatever we do for one, we need to do for both. We want to be fair and equal in our treatment of both district courts. They both have busy caseloads. They both do very well and serve the county well. The funds that we don't pay falls either on the state or the cities. And it's kind of a three-way cooperative deal that the state legislature set up, where the state pays portions, the county pays portions, and the cities pay portions. When it was the city municipal courts, we had no exposure at all there. We didn't pay any of the city expenses as far as where they held their court or the lawyers that they paid to be their municipal judges. We collected none of the fine materials or fine revenues to speak of. All that was handled through the cities. And they just simply combined those. So it's a three-way sharing that we have here. And if I were a city official, I would be asking the county to do everything that Judge Betterton and Mayor Wilson have asked, as well as anything that the city of Blytheville has asked for in the past. But, you know, my thought has always been, let's be fair about it, whatever we do first, and then let's pay what we have to, and we're required by the state, and then let everybody else pay their fair portions. So, not trying to be harsh or tough on anybody, but we just don't have the money to be overly generous and pay other entities responsibilities for them.
Right, so, okay, so the total clerk salary on the proposed budget is $111,000. So they're expected, we would pay half of that, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then, but then the 16 and the 23, we would, well, I guess this bottom part, the employee benefits, we would pay half of that as well?
Well, they're asking for us to. Legally, I guess our responsibility would just be half of the 8508.
The FICA taxes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But we're not responsible for the insurance, and we are not
But-
responsible for the pension.
But I'm just saying, but they're asking for us to pay the full amount then? Is that what they're proposing?
No, they're asking for half, looks like. Yeah. When they added it all up down at the bottom, they got $151,072 for all of them. Then they took it to the top of the second page and they split it. 50% of that would go to the city at $75,536, city of Osceola. The county would be responsible for $75,536. So our net county budget they're requesting is $75,536. So they're asking for us to pay half of the insurance and half of the pension and half of the utilities, education and conferences, office supplies, substitute judge. And all those are expenses that we're not required to pay.
But then we'd have to add in these two, right? The ones that we were paying, or like the internet and
Mhm.
But we currently don't pay it on the Blythe District Court.
No.
We split the fine revenue 50/50 with the cities as well?
No. There is a state formula based on what the infraction is as to how those fines are split out.
So it's mandated by like city, by state law?
Yeah, exactly. You know, you have your state laws, you have your city ordinances. Anything that's city ordinance goes to the city.
So depending on the crime, whether or not it was
Split
like
with
a
us or
state
not.
offense or a city offense?
Yes, ma'am.
Along that same line, this all ties together, I'm assuming, I think it does. When David Burnett was here last week and outlined, and the sheet he gave us indicated that according to these numbers, that we are on the prosecuting attorneys.
Yeah, but now that's two complete different.
That's a
entities.
different, we're gonna talk about that later.
Because the prosecuting attorney's office also works in the circuit court system.
Right.
With,
Has nothing to do with the district
No.
court.
yes, it does, but it doesn't.
They prosecute the cases.
Yes.
Yeah,
But they prosecute in both courts.
okay. I'll hold this until we,
Yeah, they prosecute in both courts. They prosecute in district court and they also prosecute in circuit court.
but if I remember correctly, we have talked about this before on,
We have, and we've always turned them down.
yeah, what I was.
The last 3 years, 2 years at least, maybe 3, even with Mayor Kennemore, he was making the same request. This isn't Mayor Wilson's specialty. She's just following suit, and as has Judge Betterton. They ask us about every year for these, and every year we've had to turn them down. And we just have, I'm not saying that we can't give it to them this year, I'm not saying that at all. But if we do them, then we need to get ready to do Blythe.
Well, so we already reimburse OCL and more money? Is that, am I seeing that? For their clerks?
They have more clerks.
Well, there's 3 clerks in each,
In each district.
well, I should say, not say it like that, I should say that we reimburse for 3 in each place. That's why I went ahead and brought, what last year's budget was. You can see that Osceola had a budget of 91,994, and Blythe had a budget of 87,324. So there was a little bit of difference, but, for the most part, it's pretty close. Their salaries are different in each court. Blythe's salaries are different than Osceola, so that's probably the main difference.
But now those salaries are set by the cities.
Okay, that's what I was, that's my next question.
Yes, the salaries of those clerks are set by the cities. And if, in the past, as you can see in Judge Betterton's letter, enclosed, please find the budget which provides for a 3% salary increase for the court clerks. When they've done that with us in the past, we have followed suit with what the cities did and met their request. Now, we've had a lot of discussion about that because sometimes we don't do that here at the county level.
Right.
But we've tried to follow suit as much as we could and as close as we could to what the cities did for the rest of their employees. Now then, the question comes, and what Kelly's waiting on, you notice she hasn't put anything in that 2021 request. Do we want to carry across the expenses as we've done them, in the past? Basically, basic question. Or do we want to add all the other requested expenditures and anticipate doing the same for Bible also? We're back to the mays and the shalls. Really, you're looking at 15,000 and 16,000, about 31,000
Yeah,
and half of that, so about $16,000 increase on the county's portion for Osceola, and you could expect about the same then for Blytheville. So we'd be adding 32 to 35,000 in expenses on the district court system that the cities have been paying.
Yeah, I think it's okay to go along with, I mean, if they're giving their city employees a raise of 3%, and I agree with that, to include the
We're gonna try to
raises,
do the
but-
same, yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think we should start
Pick
paying.
up the additional expenses. What'd you start to say, Kelly?
I was gonna say, do you want me to dig up what we had last year that shows what the county is responsible for? Would you rather just have that in front of you before you?
I think we're good.
I'm okay.
Okay.
So let's just carry it across like we've been doing, providing the same expenses that we've been providing, that's regulated by state law that we must provide. And we will, in Osceola's request, add in the 3% increase on their salaries, please. And then if Blytheville does the same, we'll meet theirs also, if that's what they do. Other than that, we'll just carry it across like we've been doing. Okay, guys, that's got what we've got for today. Now, let me briefly go through what we don't have. We're getting close. But the county judge has at least three budgets that fall under his responsibility, and I'll be touching, four. I'll touch base with him and see how he wants to go and where he wants to go. One of the blaring ones that we've talked about in the last 2 or 3 meetings has been the road department. That's by far one of his larger budgets, a little over $3 million. And the judge is working on it. I've talked to the road superintendent, Tony Stone, and he's done what he needs to do. He's given it over to the judge. The judge has stated that he is working on it. He has some changes he wants to make, which is great. He's got his own elected official budget in county general that we need. The courthouse budget, the judge is responsible for the courthouses, and there are certain things in the budget. Sometimes, depends on the judge and the year. Sometimes the judge wants input and wants to make changes. Sometimes the judge just wants to carry it over. Other county expenditures in your regular county general budget also falls under the judge. So he's got his county general, his courthouse, his other county, and the road department budgets. And I'll touch base with Judge Nelson and see how he's coming and if he needs any help or if he wants any help. The quorum court budget, Kelly's going to put together for us. We have the election commission. Melissa would be doing that, our election coordinator, along with the election commission. I think they probably got a pretty good idea of what they're doing. Next year will be an off year, but they're so dang busy. I hate to bug them, but we're going to have to. The county property reappraisal, we need to talk to Harley. We're throwing financial management on Peggy, whether she knows it or not. We're going to go ahead and, of the moment, if y'all would, let you and Kelly work out your financial management department budget until we see the final outcome of the lawsuit we're involved in. The circuit court budgets, we're going to carry it over for the moment. There's a lot of changes taking place in the second judicial and circuit court. We're having a pretty good sized judge turnover this year. We've had 11 judges in the second judicial district, involved 6 counties, 9 courthouses. They're adding a judge this year, so now we're going to have 12 circuit judges. At the same time, They have, of those 11 or now 12 judges, there is one head judge. They call him the administrative judge of the judicial district. That's been Ralph Wilson for this judicial district. Judge Wilson is retiring at the end of this year. I don't know who the new administrative judge is going to be for the second judicial yet. And not only that judgeship is changing, but there's about 4 others that's going to change. So we're going to have like 5 new judges. So I think the easiest thing for us to do is just carry the circuit judge court budget over. And the way that works is for any judge that you have in your county. Mississippi County has had Judge Ralph Wilson and Judge Dan Ritchie. Those judges turn their primary budgets into us, and we pay those bills. The same thing happens with the other judges in their respective counties. Most of them are either in Craighead or Greene. We have one down in Poinsett. And those counties pay their budgets, but then we turn all those budgets in to the administrative office located in Jonesboro, and then based on caseload in the 9 courthouses, then the counties split up their respective portions of the debt. So we pay a part of all 12 judges, but we only pay for our fair share based on how many court cases we have in Blytheville, how many court cases we have in Osceola, based against the whole district of their cases. So we're just going to carry that budget over for right now, and we might have to make amendments and changes as it goes. The coroner, Mr. Godsey, it's usually a pretty simple budget. You'll remember that last year we bought him a new van, and I think that has been really well received and really used. I think it filled in pretty good. County general transfers, Kelly usually does. The insurance account, wow, that's something, that's a pass-through deal, but we haven't talked too much about insurance. I hope those of you that can will make tomorrow's meeting with Justice Nelson. Court automation fund, we're going to carry over. The adult drug fund, we're carrying over. Economic development comes from Cliff. It ought to be a very simple budget. I'll let Justice Nelson throw it on you, but I think they're asking for maybe a COL, COLA, cost of living adjustment increase, a minor one, but some. Don't look at me like that. I told you I was going to let Justice Nelson do that. We got a pass-through mental health grant, and then the courthouse construction funds.
I'm smiling at him.
We're gonna let your committee decide how y'all want to present that. You know, we've been carrying what, $800,000, $1 million over. Yeah. You might want to continue that with the continuing process. I don't know. That's your committee. But get with Kelly and tell her what you'd like to do. And
Okay.
is that okay?
That's fine with me.
See, you're so good. If you keep working at it, you're going to be as good as he is. Kelly sent out an email. Did you send it to everybody?
Insurance?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Kelly sent out an email a while ago, and I haven't had time to look at it, but I think we all probably need to read over it before tomorrow's meeting on insurance. It had 3 attachments to it. One is a benefits comparison. Another was the cost increase comparison, and then there was a third.
There was one that said ER, some kind of cost comparison. It was just basically narrowing down all the options onto one page so it can be easier, compared the options that they're recommending compared to our current plan.
And you sent that out?
Yes, it went out on email just about lunchtime. One last thing I would like for y'all to please look at, and we got to get on this, the Jessup report. If you don't have a copy, please see Kelly. But the Jessup report, as far as salaries are concerned, now, in the proposed budgets that we've sent out to everybody so far, it was simple, a suggestion on my part as an individual, JP. I just asked Kelly if she would add in $1,000 across the board raise for all full-time employees and a $2,000 raise for the 8 elected officials. and just give us a comparison of where that would put us. Generally speaking, a raise of that nature costs about $200,000 as compared to a 3% raise that's really close to the same. They're usually within $15,000, $20,000 of each other, whether you do a 3% or an across the board of $1,000, $1,200 raise. Actually, I think in the past we may have done $1,200 and being $100 a month. And that costs usually around $240,000. There have been questions asked and ideas thrown out about trying to do more for the bottoms. You know, the Jessup report is divided into quartiles that shows a list of employees, and it breaks it down. There's 4 main quartiles. You get a midpoint, the middle average of what a job is worth on a comparative basis. And then there's 2 quartiles below it, and then 2 quartiles above it. Then they can either be below minimum or above maximum. So there's 6 categories, 6 lines that they fall in. One suggestion has been that we look at all of those in the 4th quartile and over max, and maybe freeze those salary positions in order to allow more money to be spent on those in the 1st quartile and below minimum. And my question initially has been, well, is freezing those positions going to be enough to actually make a difference and give enough money to make a difference to those in the bottoms? So in just a cursory look yesterday, there's only a handful of those that are in the 4th or above, you know, less than 10. But if you look at the 1st quartile and below, there's over 40. The bulk of those are in the jail and senior citizens. Our goal has truly been to try to be in the middle of the range and be somewhere in that 2nd, 3rd quartile and hover around that average. We don't want to be too low, yet we can't be too extravagant and be too high, you know, on the county average. So we really strive to be at least average on a comparative basis with everybody. But I really wish that you'd take a minute and look. I look at just one person here on the top. She's in the 1st quartile, and her variance to get to the midpoint is $6,500. Now, I don't think we can give $5,000 and $6,000 raises to individuals across the board, but can we maybe move them up from the 1st quartile into the 2nd? I'm going to try to get a spreadsheet put together to show where we are as far as their 1st quartile and minimums are and how far they are from the midpoint, and what a $1,000 or $1,200 raise would do for them. I don't know that we can do everything in 1 year, but if we don't continue to do something, here's a whole list of them that are probably, jail employees that are right at 15% below midpoint. That's significant. $4,000, each one of them. We want to do as much as we possibly can, but look at it, see if you can come up with some ideas. We'll do what we can. We'll do all that we can, but we're not going to, you know, we've got to be prudent with our money and solvent in the long term.
Just make sure that you look at the one that says 40 hours up top.
Okay. Did you hear that, guys? Make sure that you look at the columns that say 40 hours. That's your 40-hour comparison, because we have some that are working 40 hours, and then we have some that are not. They're working, what, 16, 40, 32 hours?
1690.
Yeah, so. Okay. Anybody got any questions? Any elected officials want to say anything? Fuss, cuss, discuss? Kelly?
I don't think so. Unless you want to, do you just want me to do the ones that I can do for next week?
Yeah, for next week, I want you to do everything that you can do, that you have under yours. I'll try to get Cliff to get his in. Molly will get hers in. I'll encourage the judge all I can to get his in. You want to call Mike Godsey, or you want me to?
Sure, I will.
Okay, you can call Mike. So if you take care of yourself and call Mike, and then expect Kelly to, expect Molly to come into you. Really, if we can work with the judge and see what he would like to do, we can almost wrap up next week, with the exception of talking about raises. Oh, and insurance. I've been holding off on the raise deal to talk too serious until we see what the insurance is gonna do to us. 10% increase on insurance is significant. When you're talking $800 an employee and you go to another $80 or $100 per employee, and we got 200 employees, that's $200,000, and that's as much as it would cost for the raises. So I've been lagging in raises because I was waiting on insurance. Okay, Justice Nelson's meeting is what time, Cindy?
11,
11 o'clock here?
yes.
11 o'clock here tomorrow. Regular quorum court tomorrow night, Osceola, 7 p.m. sharp. We'd love to have everybody there, including you guys, JPLX. So,
I'd like to mention something for you.
yes, sir. What
If
would
we're
you
finished with the budget part.
I'm done.
Most of you probably got an email this morning.
Uh-huh.
Justice Norvell
Oh, yes.
called me this morning, and he was quite upset in regard to a repair bill that came to the landfill, having to do with the piece of equipment that we traded back in, or got a new piece. The lease was up, we traded it back in, got another one, and Riggs sent us a bill for $41,000, I think it was, claiming that there was that much repair that had to be done to it to get it up to the standards that we agreed to. And that happened 2 or 3 months ago, and evidently it got processed through, and Justice Norvell called about it, and I think y'all probably all got a copy of it. The judge mentioned it to me a couple of months ago and said we had gotten the bill, and he was quite upset about it.
The judge was?
The judge was. And I said, well, Judge, this happened once before. And the Judge Brasfield negotiated, talked to the Riggs people, negotiated, and they made a pretty substantial reduction in it. And that's what I recommended for him to do. And I think he did have a conversation, because I noticed on the copy of the thing that Justice Norvell sent, there was about an $8,000 reduction, but it sure wasn't part of it. And we pay a substantial amount of leasing. You all are aware of that at the landfill, those 3 pieces that are under lease, and it is substantial. I personally, I don't know what we can do about it, other than we haven't been taking bids on these things. We've just been dealing with Riggs. But we may be to the point, I would recommend next time that our lease is up, that maybe we take bids on it. And there's a different Riggs dealer out of Memphis. We took Riggs because they're in Jonesboro. They have a serviceman that stays here because he does a lot of work at Nucor also. He lives here, in fact, and they're handy. But we pay for regular maintenance on those pieces. But they listed all sorts of things, and I hope everybody will take a look at that. I don't know what we have in choice but to pay it. We probably could refuse to pay it and go to court maybe. But I think it's already probably in the process of being paid or been paid.
It was already paid.
But the judge was not happy with it, and I'm not happy with it. And I don't know, I think they're kind of leaning on us a little bit. I'm still upset about that $16,000 of property taxes we had to pay on the equipment we had leased. And no one ever mentioned the fact that in fact, that had never been done before. But anyway, long story short, I think in the future, I'm going to recommend that we look at this from a little more competitive standpoint and see where we can get the best deal. They do regular maintenance. We see it, y'all see it every month in the printouts. They bill us continually for regular maintenance on the equipment down there, and I don't know how we could come in there and then they say we owe $40,000 to get the piece. When you lease a piece and you know it's going in the landfill where it's gonna be tough, I just assumed they build all that into the lease price.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come back and we turn it in, they bill us for another 40,000. It doesn't sit well.
No.
Justice Norvell's upset and I think we're all upset about it.
So is there no service agreement clauses of any kind in the lease contracts?
There is a certain, and in the lease contract, of course, it's about 10 pages long, small print.
Right.
But I don't know that it specifically spells out what kind of shape percentage-wise it will be in. But they found some major things that supposedly was wrong that they billed us for and this and that. And it was, well, when you lease a piece of equipment, and they know that, like I said, they know it's gonna be in a very, that's the reason we
Right,
lease it.
the service maintenance contracts are normally, they should match what the type of endurance of the equipment is going to need. I mean, I deal with a lot of leased equipment.
Right.
And that's, they charge you that on the front end monthly, what they think it should cost generally.
Well, they charge well for the maintenance they do. I mean, it's several $1,000s every month that we pay for maintenance on the 3 pieces of equipment. And we were not over the hours. When you sign the lease, the main item is that be sure that you stay within the hours that you've leased. They allow you so many hours over a 3-year period. We were not charged anything on overage on hours. It was just they claimed that there was major repairs had to be done to it.
Then why didn't they do it in the regular lease?
Why didn't they do it in the
Sorry.
regular lease?
Yeah, that's what.
That's what's aggravating.
I'd be going through that lease agreement with a fine tooth comb and looking at what.
That's what's frustrating about it. If it was major stuff like filters, I hope all of you will take a look at that.
I'll go back
They
and look
bill
at
us
it.
for a bunch of filters and things like that. They're down there changing filters all the time.
Well, that's just regular wear and tear. That's
that is-
not
That's wear and
over and
tear.
above. I mean, that's,
Yeah, that should be included.
But it's just crap.
When's the leases up on equipment? What's the dates?
They're usually 3 years, and 2 of them have come up this year. Am I right, Kelly?
I know one of them did, I don't
The
know.
compactor and the 963. So there's one more that comes up probably in the spring. And I
It's a
think we,
D60 or something like that.
I think we sure need to
Better negotiate.
look at it from a competitive standpoint.
Just to be clear, you mentioned that the judge was upset about it, but we did receive a signed bill to pay. Just,
Yes.
it was paid because we were told to.
Yeah, he authorized payment of that.
Yeah.
I understand that. I think he kept it a while because he was upset. And when he mentioned it to me a couple months ago, I recommended he talk to him, and I'm assuming he did. I did not have that this morning when I talked with him, or I would ask him. But I'm assuming that he did talk to him because there was an $8,000 reduction. But $8,000 off of 46 or 48 or whatever it was is not a big deal.
Not near enough.
No.
Do y'all have the county attorney read those leases and stuff and look at all that before they're signed by the quorum court?
When those were signed, we didn't have a county attorney at that
Gotcha.
time. Those 2 original leases were done under Judge Brassfield.
Okay,
We didn't have a county attorney at that
I
time.
got you. Might be something to consider for future purposes as
Yeah.
well.
That one that was picked up where, you're discussing those charges, there was one that replaced it.
Yes,
And the judge signs those
yes,
contracts.
yes. 2 of the leases have been renewed, so I don't know if anyone read over
Track
them or
for
not.
3 years.
Guys, if nothing else, we'll adjourn and come back tomorrow and tomorrow night and next Monday. Okay. Isn't this fun?
I'm gonna ask a question about the rate. And, I mean, if purpose of giving the raise is 5 years, with the.
Those are not.
Comparative
Yes,
entities.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, even if it's just a handful, let's just say, it's, you know, if you say there's under 10 that would, you know, on $1,000, that's still $10,000. That's gonna go further on your first quartile people. I mean, how does that work? I mean, and it may be 6 to 1. I mean, you know, if we looked at giving the first quartile people, you know, a 5% raise, and then the second, third, a 3%